You just got to admire at this time that they dropped a bomb on the airport, so we completely are going to wipe out their airport. And Israel wiped out their airport, wiped out every airplane on the ground, wiped out the terminals. It's like no airport. They got to build a new airport. There's no way in and out of Yemen except on, business class camel. So here we go. And then there was, as usual, activity at the American colleges. But in this generation of Trump and the fact that every one of these colleges knows that if they don't act right away, he's going to cut $1 billion out of their budget, suddenly everybody is reinterpreting the First Amendment to stop these characters. So here we go. Thanks for being here, of course. And happy Mother's Day to everyone born of a mother. See where we are. See how we get there. Okay, so that shouldn't be there, but that should be. And then that's out of the way. And we begin. Another person just came. Okay. Start with the obliterating of the pier of the Hodeidah port, and then the airport.
هذا حرق المازوت المتسرب من المولد. كل جهة حيلة النيران تتصاعد في هذا المكان. طبعا هذا المكان
It's interesting that the firefighters in Yemen, they don't have the capability of making their own firefighting uniforms, so they have to buy it from Anglophonic countries. They're so backward. It's amazing that they haven't been wiped out already. I think they should, it's easy for me to say, but I think they should knock out the water also. That put this thing to an end. You've got to knock stuff out, knock out their electricity, and knock out their water. Let them get the water from the Red Sea. I'm serious. I'm serious. What's going to happen? People are going to say Israel committed a war crime. They already call them war crimes. So that's the port. Now the
אמרתי פעמים רבות שמי שתוקף את מדינת ישראל דמו בראשו. אתמול אמרתי שהתקיפה של החות'ים תענה לא בזבנג וגמרנו, אלא בזבנגים. אז אתמול נתנו זבנג, מכה קשה לנמל חודדה. היום מטוסינו תקפו את שדה התעופה בסנה, שדה התעופה שמאפשר את צבא הטרור ואת הכניסה האווירית למדינת הטרור, שמאפשרת את ירי הטילים נגדנו. הבחירה שלנו מתי להגיב, איך להגיב ועל איזה מטרות להגיב, זה שיקול שאנחנו עושים כל פעם, וזה נוגע גם לפטרון של החות'ים, איראן, שבלעדי האישור שלהם והתמיכה שלהם, לאורך זמן החות'ים לא יכולים לקיים את מתקפת הטילים הנפשעת עלינו. הנשיא טראמפ אמר את זה לפני חודש וחצי, אני אומר את זה גם היום. אנחנו נבוא חשבון עם כל מי שתוקף את מדינת ישראל.
כך נראה אחר הצהריים נמל התעופה הבינלאומי בסאנה, בירת תימן.
This is what the Sana'a airport looked like in the afternoon. We shall win with Allah. We shall win with Allah.
الله يستر الله
God will watch us. God will watch us.
يستر.
ישראל יצא למתקפה חסרת תקדים על שער הכניסה והיציאה הראשי של תימן.
Israel went on an attack that's unprecedented. The entrances and exits of Taman, Yemen.
בתגובה לפגיעה של הטיל החותי בנמל התעופה בן גוריון.
אז אתמול נתנו זבנג, מכה קשה, לנמל חודדה.
The same speech that we just saw a moment ago.
חשבון עם כל מי שתוקף את מדינת ישראל.
עשרות מטוסי קרב של חיל האוויר.
So there's Israel over here. There's Jordan. There's Egypt. There's Saudi Arabia, pretty big place, huh? And there's Taman, that's Yemen. So in order to do it, Israel's got to fly across, I guess, the Red Sea. And that way they avoid Arab airspace. Saudi Arabia won't let them fly over there. You know, there's airspace. So you need permission to fly over another country. Fortunately, to the degree that exists, there's a pathway that doesn't entail dealing with airspace straight to Yemen.
אוויר מלווים במטוסי תדלוק, מודיעין ותובלה, המריאו יותר מ-2,000 קילומטרים מבסיסי חיל האוויר לתקיפה ישראלית שביעית בתימן.
Seventh attack in Yemen, more than 2,000 kilometers.
عندما سمعنا هذه الغارات نحن نعلم أن مطار صنعاء مكشوف.
When we heard the explosions, we knew that our airport was under attack.
وهو يخدم المدنيين وليس مطار عسكري ولا يوجد طيران حربي حتى يتم
This is completely unjustified. There's no right to.
استهدافه تحت حجة أنه استخدم لأغراض عسكرية.
המטוסים הפילו עשרות חימושים על נמל התעופה והובילו להשמדתו.
The fighter planes dropped many tens of bombs and on the airport and wiped it out.
والله إسرائيل ما احنا ضاربين لكم كرت واللي احنا مع غزة حتى آخر نفس.
ראש הממשלה נתניהו ושר הביטחון כץ שהו בבור חיל האוויר בקריה.
Defense Minister Katz and Netanyahu were watching the entire operation as it unfolded in the bunker of the Israeli Air Force in the Kiryat.
במלוא התוצאות.
כחצי שעה לפני המתקפה הוזהרו עובדי נמל.
Half an hour before the bombing, Israel warned Yemen, all people in the airport to get out. I think it's a good call, as opposed to when Israel would in Gaza tell people to get out of the residential apartment buildings because they're going to bomb the building where the leaders of Hamas are. Well, that gives the Hamas people an opportunity to get out. But here the objective was to wipe out the airport, not necessarily people. And so they got everybody out. And in order to get them out, to have a chief spokesman in Arabic, who made the speech in Arabic.
נמל התעופה והמבקרים להימלט מיד.
استمعوا إلى هذا البيان العاجل بعناية. ندعوكم إلى إخلاء منطقة المطار، مطار صناعة دولي بشكل فوري، وتحذير كل من يتواجد بجواركم عن ضرورة إخلاء هذه المنطقة فوراً، فعدم إخلاء والابتعاد.
He's basically saying get out of there right away, get away from the airport, get as far away as you can, because we're going to blow it up. And although I don't speak Arabic except for 3 or 4 curse words, it sounds to me that because I've had experience listening to Arabs speaking in Arabic, it sounds like he's got the accent right. That is, he probably grew up in a Arab Jewish family that came from, one of these countries.
هذا المكان مطار صناعة دولي يعرضكم للخطر.
בנוסף לתקיפה בנמל התעופה הושמדו תחנות כוח בבירה התימנית ומפעל בטון בעיר אמרן ששימשו את החות'ים לצרכים צבאיים.
It was also, while the airport was being destroyed and obliterated, they also were bombing in another city in Yemen that has certain military purposes.
مستعدين لتقديم كل التضحيات من أجل إسناد إخواننا في غزة مهما.
And this guy is saying nothing's going to stop us from supporting the oppressed Palestinians in Gaza. Well, if Israel keeps it up, they'll be stopped.
חייבת.
But they really did a job on the airport. They really did a job on that airport. This is not one of these things where they bomb a section like in Syria, where they bombed a section of an airport. They literally took out the whole airport. Like you're on the way to meet somebody who's arriving, and you follow the Siri or Waze directions, and you get there, but there's no airport. Your plane has been delayed. All right. That was the terminal.
المطار استهدف يوم أمس من يوم 6 مايو بأكثر من 20 صاروخ أو أكثر من 20 غارة استهدف المطار، وكان الاستهداف استهداف مباشر وتدمير كلي لكل مرافق المطار.
That's the director of the airport. Okay, you get the idea.
Breaking news at Columbia University, where dozens of pro-Palestinian protesters in masks have staged a protest inside the Butler Library. Chopper 4's John McLaughlin live over the campus. And
remember, Trump cut $400 million out of Columbia and made clear right now the United States Justice Department, Education Department are negotiating with Columbia. And when I say right now, not only today, but for the last 2 weeks, they're negotiating for a consent decree by which Columbia will agree to something like 9 things, including that they're not allowed to have anybody wearing masks, mass automatic arrest, and they've got to have campus security arresting people, and they've got to start all kinds of stuff. And they've got to let the government have input into their Middle East studies program. It's wild stuff, and they're only negotiating. So with the understanding that if they don't resolve the issues, a lot more than $400 million should be on the line. So it's against that background that the third president of Columbia in 1 year, where they normally never do anything, they don't do anything. They just threaten. The new one, she's got to do something, because if she doesn't do anything, well, we know that he cut out $1 billion from Cornell and $2.2 billion from Harvard. So she doesn't know what he's liable to do. And against that, keep in mind, because I've been in that situation on the other side of the aisle, namely during finals, you go into Butler Library and you study, and your studying is enhanced. It's like being in a kollel. It's like you have hundreds of Columbia students are all sitting, studying for their exams, and it's even better than studying in your dorm room because of the psych of being in a room of hundreds of people all sitting and studying in Butler Library. And this is exams week. And then all of a sudden these animals come in and start chanting, and they break up your studying, and that's the context.
And John, what can you tell us? We're looking at the protest here now. What is happening at the moment?
Well, at the moment, the last few minutes we've been watching this, there has been an escalation where some of the protesters who were on the outside have forced their way in past the campus security, and they have essentially taken over that lobby of the Butler Library right now. Unclear how many people were here when they pushed their way in, but what we do know is that there was a group of between 60 to 100 protesters that were pro-Palestine that have taken over the Butler Library, or at least a room inside the Butler Library, and this happened around 4 o'clock, and that the NYPD is monitoring the situation, but they have no.
Right on the sidewalk.
So that was before and after. Nothing like cutting $400 million out of a college budget.
Straight down on the sidewalk.
Before Trump, under Biden and Kamala Harris, this does not happen. Under Trump, he doesn't have to be there. They just know he's somewhere, and that's all it takes. A year ago, Columbia was saying, First Amendment, we have no right to deny these students their First Amendment right to free speech. Now, cops. It was reported yesterday, too late, that there's no video of it yet, but it was reported yesterday that of the 80 that were arrested, 65 have been suspended. Last year, no one was basically suspended. There was no punishment at all. They've suspended, and suspension includes those 65 are not being allowed to take their final exams this week, which means they're not finishing, for now, their school year. And I don't know what that means exactly, but it sounds good. I would also point out, as you know, for 1 year this is going on. There's exactly 12 months now. During those 12 months, Israel has not given up an inch of Judea Samaria. Not only are the Arabs no closer to having a Palestine, which is a fiction, but they are farther away. At this point, even middle-of-the-road Israeli leaders like Benny Gantz now have come out openly that they will never support an Arab country between the river and the sea, which was not a year ago. The entire Israeli population has moved to the right, and polls show that more than between 80 and 90% of Israelis are against any Arab country between the river and the sea, which it used to be 50-50. The half on the left were for it, half on the right. After October 7 and the past year, 80 to 90%, the 90% of the Knesset had a vote a few months ago. There will never be an Arab country between the river and the sea. That's how much has changed. And on top of it, Biden and Harris are gone, and now there are 4 years of Trump's administration. He should live and be well. So it is very encouraging how weak they are now. A year ago, they were all over the campuses with their tents and everything, how weak and pitiful they are. They didn't even get handcuffs. They didn't even bother with metal handcuffs. They just put little ties on the back of their hands and tied them up. An amazing change in just the change of who the president is. You get rid of the other two, and big change.
Dozens of masked anti-Israel protesters arrested at Columbia.
So this is what was going inside before they were arrested.
University after storming the school's library.
Yeah, this didn't take place a year ago. This took place yesterday. Chanley Painter is here with all the details. Hi, Chanley.
Hey, good morning, Carly and Griff. So the NYPD was actually called to the scene some 5 hours after more than 100 masked anti-Israel protesters stormed the library at Columbia University. They shoved past campus security as students prepare for finals in that library, injuring at least 2 of those public safety officers.
As Marco Rubio has made clear, that expression, it better be that all these people chanting are American citizens, because that expression is grounds for deportation, revocation of the passport, of the student visa, and deportation on grounds that no one would be allowed into the United States advocating intifada, which is by America's State Department regarded as terrorism. So they won't allow in people, not only people who are terrorists, but people who advocate terrorism. And any statement for intifada is automatic revocation. So now it's just a matter of finding out the names and identities of the 65 people, masks or otherwise. Once they're suspended and they're arrested, they get their faces, they get their fingerprints, and some of them I'm sure will be deported.
Those protesters are reportedly rallying support for Mahmoud Khalil, one of the accused ringleaders of pro-Palestinian protest at Columbia. Well, more than 80 people were arrested, all students, according to the NYPD. The university releasing this statement, quote, "These disruptions of our campus and academic activities will not be tolerated. Individuals found to be in violation of university rules and policies will face disciplinary consequences." And this as ICE was also monitoring the situation. If arrests were made, the suspects were to be fingerprinted to determine if they are non-citizens. Secretary of State Marco Rubio warns with this quote, "We are reviewing the visa status of the trespassers and vandals who took over Columbia University's library. Pro-Hamas thugs are no longer welcome in our great nation." And of course, this all comes as the Trump administration slashed $400 million in federal grants to the university for not doing more to curtail the acts of anti-Semitism on campus. So Columbia has agreed to some of those demands, though, last month. But we'll see what happens next, guys.
So that was the scene, and it was sickening at Columbia University yesterday at their library. Over 100 anti-Israeli protesters stormed the Butler Library on campus in support of Mahmoud Khalil, with over 80 being arrested. The university responding by saying, quote, "Disruptions to our academic activities will not be tolerated and are violations of our rules and policies. This is especially unacceptable while our students study and prepare for final exams." He was studying, believe it or not, for finals on the first floor, and she joins us now. Eden, what was it like for you as a Jewish student seeing this happen again?
You got that her name is Eden, and for those of you who know Hebrew, her necklace is Ayin Daled Nun Sofit Eden.
And right in front of you.
Thanks for having me. Like you said, I, along with hundreds, if not thousands of other students, were just trying to study for finals and complete our coursework when dozens of masked vandals, the vast majority of whom we believe are students, flooded into the library, chanting "Free Palestine," calling for an intifada revolution, and calling in Arabic for one state, one Palestinian state from the river to the sea. Not only was it absolutely shocking and intimidating, but it was disrupting one of the most basic functions of the university. And it's ridiculous to me that almost 2 years later, since October 7th, since these sort of disruptions have become commonplace, that this happened during finals week, but it does mark a pretty notable shift in how Columbia handled it, because Columbia brought in the NYPD within 4 hours to arrest these students, and I am cautiously optimistic that they will be held accountable. Every single one of them should be expelled, if not, expelled immediately, because they forced the evacuation of the library. Students were trying to study, and we weren't able to do that because of this small group of radical, anti-Israeli, anti-Jewish vandals.
We're about...
She's good. She's good. Separate story out of Columbia. Columbia has announced that 180 people have to be laid off as a result of the $400 million being laid off. So it's hitting them already.
This is from the University of Washington, where crews just put out this fire during a protest on campus.
This is Washington State on the other side of the country. And this was the other big one this week. There was also a third one at Brooklyn College. But this one at University of Washington, this is a good one.
This is right next to the engineering library. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators have been occupying a nearby building for about 6 hours now. Let's get right to King 5's Maddie White live on the scene with the latest. Maddie, what do we know?
Greg, it's a tense situation right now on UW's campus. Protesters, pro-Palestinian protesters, are facing off with Seattle Police Department's SWAT team. I'm going to show you what I'm seeing behind me here. So for about 20 minutes, Seattle Police Department SWAT team has been standing here facing off with the protesters. They just actually you can see they're running into the building. This is the engineering building that is being occupied by this Super UW group, is called.
That's really interesting, those green bulbs that they carry. I guess if someone turns out the lights and billy clubs start swinging, you have an idea of whether you're hitting the students or you're hitting the cop that's on your team. So the interesting strategy.
It's a student protest group in support of Palestine.
So there's the green ones and the purple ones. They're ready for these kids.
Palestinian lives, and they are entering this UW building right now. There are people that are inside the building with furniture blocking several of the doorways. There's also the road being blocked off with furniture right now by these protesters. And we just heard over the intercom that the police have that they will be arresting any students who are trespassing inside the building right now. We just saw them throwing furniture that protesters used to block the doorway aside, and looks like police are entering the building right now. And again, this is a group of protesters that is part of a group at UW called Super UW. The protest started around 5 at the
Goes out there, Maddie.
This morning, furniture, chalk, and debris are scattered around an engineering building at the University of Washington. Overnight, the university says around 30 protesters were arrested for entering the building and damaging things inside. The protesters say they want the university to cut ties with Boeing because of its support of Israel's military.
Let's get to King 5's Drew Andre, who's on campus this morning. Drew, what does the aftermath look like there outside the engineering building?
Okay, so around 3:30 this morning, we saw the last of the demonstrators leave. The last of the arrests were around 2 a.m., but this morning here, there's a lot left over from this here. You can see that there is furniture, these scooters that are all piled up against the doors. This is what it looks like all over the interdisciplinary engineering building, which was at the center of this protest. You can also see chalk there on the walls that says Free Palestine.
So if you picked up on this, the money to build this building, and it was a lot of money, came from Boeing Corporation, which has decades upon decades upon decades of engagement in the Seattle and state of Washington communities. Boeing was for the longest time identified with Washington State and vice versa. They've taken some steps to move a lot out of Washington, but these students were basically more than anything demanding that the university cut all ties with Boeing, and the chances of that are nil. And again, during a year of this stuff, Boeing has only increased its cooperation with Israel. So all these protests have absolutely no impact at all.
There, and then what else we've noticed is all over the inside of the building, plastered there are pro-Palestinian signs that are up everywhere from when those demonstrators were occupying the building inside. The school says that protesters destroyed property inside the building as well. Now, before any of the arrests were made, we kept learning and research environment and strongly condemns this illegal building occupation and the anti-Semitic statement that was issued by a suspended student group Monday. The university will not be intimidated by this sort of offensive and destructive behavior and will continue to oppose anti-Semitism in all of its forms. Now,
it's so wonderful having Trump and Rubio and all of these people, all this strong morality and standing up for what's right never happened during the years of Biden and Kamala Harris. now they've suddenly found the light. Nothing like that. Their hearts and minds follow.
About 30 people that were booked into King County Jail.
In just a few hours, the University of Washington's Board of Regents is scheduled to meet, and this comes as we learn the school is estimating that pro-Palestinian protesters caused $1 million worth of damage to the building they took over on Monday night. Fox 13's Nikki Torres is live, and Nikki, we know it was expensive, but what kind of damage is the school looking at here?
Well, John, according to the university, protesters not only damaged the inside and the outside of the building, they also ruined the equipment that was inside that engineering building as well. That is on top of the dumpsters that they had set on fire that night. Let's go ahead and walk it back to Monday evening. That is when the protesters had taken over this building. It was an interdisciplinary engineering building here at the Seattle campus. And the UW administration reported that a pro-Palestinian group had forced a lockdown. The protest group said their goal was to get the university to break ties with Boeing. Their reason, its military contracts with Israel. UW called the group's actions illegal and dangerous. They also called the group's statement about the Hamas bombings that killed Israeli citizens anti-Semitic. And initially, the school had told us it was 21 students who were arrested, suspended, and banned from all UW campuses. We actually got an update just yesterday saying that it is actually 34 people who are now facing consequences. It is unclear if all 34 are students, but the university says any non-student will be banned from the Seattle campus. 4 of the protesters have been released by the court and the rest have posted their bond. UW announced yesterday it received a notice that the federal task force to combat anti-Semitism has initiated a review of federal grants and contracts at the school. UW says that it is cooperating with the evaluation. Now, according to UW's student newspaper, it's called The Daily, the university's Board of Regents is scheduled to meet this morning. That is going to be at 8:30. The group that also organized the protest from Monday night, they are also scheduling another rally at 1 this afternoon. We're live in Seattle this morning. I'm Nikki Torres, Fox 13 News.
All right, Nikki.
Joyce, the university is looking at some very costly repairs inside this building. We got a look inside today, and it's very clear this is not going to be a quick fix. Busted glass, spray-painted walls, brand new equipment trashed, doors glued shut.
I was surprised by the extent that they took it to.
This is the aftermath of an overnight protest in the new engineering building at the University of Washington.
That was like, wow, what on earth happened?
William No came here to study only to find these signs and a security guard keeping watch out front.
I saw us closed. There's a sign that says closed. I didn't expect it to be closed, actually.
The university says the building cost $150 million to construct. $10 million of that came from Boeing. It had only been open for a few weeks before protesters occupied the space Monday night. Protesters are demanding that UW cut ties with Boeing over its work with the Israeli military. The university released a statement.
A question I was thinking as I was watching the Columbia Library take over, and then I was watching this thing. In order to be a student at one of these places, you have to come up with $60,000 to $80,000 a year to pay tuition and room and board, the dormitories and the food plans. But it's $60,000. Let's call it $60,000, even though it's usually closer to $80,000. Some of them it's even $100,000. Let's say $60,000. How many of these kids at Columbia and at Washington actually have $60,000 in the bank every year to write a check or Zelle the money? Where do they get the $60,000? And a few of them have parents who have it, but 95% of them borrow it. And so they're borrowing it from the federal government. They don't even have the money to be there. The only reason they get in is that they're borrowing money on a promise that eventually they'll pay it back. But they're kind of like freeloaders in the sense that we're lending you money to come in and then you tear the place up. It's like you don't even need to revoke the student visas, just revoke their loans.
Condemning the violence, saying in part, the university will not be intimidated by this sort of horrific and destructive behavior and will not engage in dialogue with any group using or condoning such destructive tactics.
I was not surprised by the attack, specifically because these protesting groups have been vocal about their opposition to this building and to some of the engineering programs.
Mitsuki Shimomura says he was shocked by the amount of damage.
Vandalism against engineering buildings is an attack against engineering students who just want to study about technologies that can make this world a better place.
The university says damage to the equipment alone could cost more than $1 million. It hasn't even been used. Some pieces are still wrapped in bubble wrap.
Never thought this would happen. Like actually locking yourself into a building or barricading yourself in. It's just unheard of here.
24 classes have been moved elsewhere on campus, and it's still unclear when students will be allowed back inside.
Kind of bummed out that it's closed. I was hoping to come here to study today, but I guess I have to find somewhere else, but I hope it opens soon.
And the university says that its partnership with Boeing spans more than 100 years, and they say that cutting ties with Boeing would violate academic freedom. The Board of Regents did vote back in March not to move forward with divestment. Reporting live in Seattle tonight, Bridget Chavez, King 5 News.
The University of Washington is now in the crosshairs of the Trump administration following Monday night's protest. The federal government said they expect to see policy changes from UW to prevent future incidents. Fox 13's AJ Janova went to campus today as another protest took place today.
And if you haven't picked up on it, they're calling it UW. That is, the dub is for W, but it's a lot of syllables. So instead of referring to it as UW, it's known as UW. Sort of like George W. Bush or something like W. Okay.
Super UW, who the University of Washington says caused $1 million in damage Monday night, was back on campus today, this time demanding that the students who were arrested face no punishment.
All students, all faculty, staff, workers, and community members must stand firmly behind the protesters. We must demand that they drop the suspensions, and we must demand that they drop the charges.
The University of Washington released these pictures of the damage they say protesters caused to the interdisciplinary engineering building Monday night. Boeing invested $10 million into the building's construction. Super UW, the protest group claiming responsibility for Monday, says they want the university to cut ties with Boeing.
And rally around support around those students.
These continued actions could cost UW much more than $1 million. Following Monday's protest, the Trump administration sent a notice to UW saying the university is now under review by its task force to combat anti-Semitism. The same task force that took similar actions against Columbia and Harvard University. The Trump administration has already cut billions of federal dollars to those universities due to what they call a failure to end the harassment of Jewish students. UW receives about $1.5 billion from the federal government each year. In a statement, the University of Washington responded to the Trump administration's notice, saying in part, the university values its long-standing partnership with the federal government. We will cooperate with the task force's review and are confident that an evaluation will find we are in compliance with federal civil rights laws. Reporting of the University.
This one is in Brooklyn College. I grew up in Brooklyn. I attended Columbia, and I grew up in Brooklyn. I passed Brooklyn College every day. I think one of my sisters went to Brooklyn, Debbie. My sister Debbie went to Brooklyn College, and Brooklyn College was a great school. It was like 1,000,000% Jewish. It was the heart of Brooklyn, and it was a Jewish neighborhood, and it was famous. The City University of New York has about, 7 or so campuses, 10, I don't know. Brooklyn College, Queens College, Lehman College, and Brooklyn College was one of the 2 or 3 pearls and diamonds of the CUNY, the CUNY system. And then Mayor John Lindsay, liberal back in the 1960s, created open enrollment, where you no longer needed to pass an admissions exam to get in. But everyone who wants to go to Brooklyn College from Brooklyn is guaranteed admission. And people warned, once you start enrolling everybody, It's not going to be the Brooklyn College way. No, no, no. We're going to have high standards and everybody's going to. And Brooklyn College started taking in the riffraff. No more. It was open enrollment. You don't have to know any math. You don't have to know how to read. And Brooklyn College didn't take long for the Jews to start going to other colleges, whether private or even people in Brooklyn going to Queens College to get away from Brooklyn College. That's what happened. That's what happened. Everything has consequences. And all these highfalutin, wonderful sounding programs that are going to offer a great, brave new world, you wait about 5-10 years and you see what it accomplishes. My favorite one here is the dumb redhead, expecting a dumb blonde comment. Dumb redhead. She's got a N95 mask and sunglasses, and she assumes no one's going to be able to figure out who she is with that red hair and so much showing.
That's Brooklyn College, New York.
Good, strong police presence does a lot of good. It really does. And it's just amazing how much has changed with a change of administration in Washington and just the idea that a new sheriff has come to town. There used to just be a lot of yeshiva kids. Now they go to Touro College. John Lindsay probably gets a lot of credit for Touro College. It was just created to take kids that aren't going to go to Columbia or Harvard, but want to get a college education and become accountants or something. And yeah, and it's just ridiculous. Okay. That's what's going on, but it's just the dregs. Last year, there were how many American campuses jam-packed with encampments, and this week was University of Washington and the Columbia Library and Brooklyn College.
Fuck Muhammad!
Some of you may have heard about this Met Gala that passed 2 weeks ago, basically where all the very rich and famous celebrities and the Foo-Foo crowd basically come in these gazillion-dollar gowns and fashion creations where men dress like women and women dress like, who knows if they dress, and they show up at the Met and everybody gets a photograph taken and they fill up the newspapers the next day and on TV. And this famous person was dressed like this and that one was dressed like that. And it should say clashes. And then what you don't know is that outside, not surprisingly, there was one of these Palestine things, clashes and fights outside the Foo-Foo Met Gala.
You pushed me out of my face. You pushed me, cracker. You're the one getting in our car.
But the beauty is, unlike Los Angeles and other parts, in New York, you do have areas where Jews come out to fight. They did it. They came out to fight at UCLA also last year, which was a beautiful thing. And they come out to fight. And it just changes the whole tenor of the demonstration.
You pushed me, cracker. You pushed me, cracker.
That madman in his green Cape Crusader, he's one of ours. That's an IDF outfit.
Back the fuck up! Back the fuck up! Back the fuck up, cracker! Back the fuck up, cracker! Back up! Back up, cracker! Back up, cracker!
Restore ancient Israel.
What the fuck are you gonna do? Nazi pigs! Nazi pigs! Fuck out of my face! How's it feel to be a Nazi? How's it feel to be a terrorist pigs? You're a fucking Nazi pigs!
Listening to this go on outside, while inside all the Hollywood celebrities dressed in their foo-foo outfits, and you should see some of those photos for those of you that didn't see the story. It's just, what a hysterical thing. It's like two different universes right a few feet away from each other. There's the Jews with their yarmulkes. There's some yarmulkes, and there's some blue and white. And there's this one guy who's and he's wearing a T-shirt. That's the logo of the Irgun from the 1940s, Rakach, only thus.
You are Nazi pigs! You are Nazi pigs! You are Nazi pigs! You are Nazi pigs!
Remember from last week that Itamar Ben-Gvir, the Israeli minister, was visiting in the United States, and he was on Ocean Parkway in Brooklyn. So a lot of the news this week, and again, Jews came out to fight back. And it was a busy week for the NYPD, New York Police Department.
Guys.
Placed under arrest and charged with conduct. This is the New York City Police Department. You are unlawfully in the roadway and obstructing.
It's actually a comedy, and here you've got some frum guys, and then you have some really frum guys with the hats, and I think she's holding a red cane to hit somebody, maybe. And it's Brooklyn. That's Brooklyn. I grew up there. That's what it is. It's a trumpet. And there's a lot of guys with yarmulkes, black yarmulkes. They came out to stand up. And that's Neturei Karta. That was a guy from this mentally ill group, very small. There's only a few hundred of them in the world, with a Palestine flag. And he's the one, like whenever you see those things of Orthodox Jews calling for the death of Jews in Israel, that's the Neturei Karta. So let's just get another look at that character. It's all a day in Brooklyn.
camera down, faggot!
And you see the Jews are laughing at the Neturei. The media sometimes builds up Neturei Karta like they're a thing. Jews see these guys, we laugh.
Fuck you, you Nazi bitch! Fuck you, you Nazi bitch!
That's my day. Why are you here? Get paid minimum wage. You are unlawfully in the roadway and obstructing vehicular traffic. You are ordered to leave the roadway and utilize the available sidewalk.
These are the same three guys starting trouble.
No charge will be placed against you.
And so a day in Brooklyn. Now, here we go. So very many of us are boycotting Ben and Jerry. These are these left-wing bastards who decided, Ben Cohen and Jerry Siegel, who decided to very publicly support the anti-Israel community, and that they were going to boycott Israel. And so it started off our boycott of them. And then it turned out they didn't realize, but their contract with their Israel-based Ben and Jerry franchise had allowed the Israel guy complete autonomy. So corporate Ben and Jerry in America, under the franchise, had no authority to stop the other from selling in Judea Samaria. But one of the big public statements that this guy put out was that we're Jews. You know, as a Jew, I am embarrassed by what Israel's doing. As a Jew, I'm supporting. So here, Tucker Carlson, another character, got him this week, Ben Cohen, on the Tucker Carlson podcast. And for the first time, we found out what kind of Jew, as a Jew, actually is.
Of a spiritual belief. I mean, I don't practice a religion. I was born a Jew. I love Jesus Christ. I think the words that he said are wonderful, are amazing.
Ben Cohen of Ben and Jerry.
I'm kind of distressed that a lot of organized Christian religions are not really, abiding by the words of Jesus Christ.
I am too.
I'm friends with a guy named Shane Claiborne, who's a theologian, and he, a Christian. He calls himself a red letter Christian. And
well, bottom line is, we now know more about Ben Cohen than we did 5 minutes ago. To hell with him.
Much higher chance of hearing actual news and information. So we hope that you'll do that.
Tammy Bruce, State Department spokeswoman, thanks so much for taking the time to join us here. I got to ask you right off the bat, I've seen a media report that says that you're Jewish, and I looked through your social media history before you took over at the State Department, full of affinity for the Jewish people. You remind me a little bit of my grandma, just tough as nails. So it's of interest to our audience. Are you Jewish?
I am not, and sadly not. I am Italian, which I've always thought maybe the Italians were the lost tribe, so that could be the dynamic there. But it's so it's I'm honored. I don't mind people thinking that at all. I do recall. It's interesting. After the October 7th attacks, I went to a jeweler in the World Trade Center to get the Star of David to wear on the air, and he knows me, and he said, "But people will think you're Jewish," and I said, "I hope so." And the point is that at a time like that, and certainly throughout history, is that we all have to be Jewish. We all have to be recognized as this is about humanity, about the nature also of the Jewish people and the Western civilization that we all enjoy that make life worth living. The nature of the Judeo-Christian ethic, the impact of the Jewish people throughout history, the inventions, the medicine, the education that is delivered by Israel, but really the Jewish people around the world. It is, you have, I've thought and I've said before, you have really two options with the Jewish people. You can be envious or you can be grateful. And I am enormously grateful for the.
I just wanted to play that as a antidote to Ben Cohen. So you've got Ben Cohen, who denies any affiliation with the people that he was born into. And then you have Tammy Bruce, an Italian. And wanted to leave on that note. We close with a Mother's Day song.
מזל שיש אותך, תמיד את מנגנת, תמיד שלמה עם עצמך, ברוח את מלטפת, את מתארי אהבתך, איזה מזל.
Some understand the song as a song to one's wife, and there are other interpretations of the song.
מזל שיש אותך, את מבינה אותי ואת מראה לי את עצמי, מתלהב כמו ילד, מתפנק בך ואז אני נשאר איתך.
This is the person who wrote this song and made it famous, and it made him famous about 50 years ago or 40 years ago.
אני שקוע בנסתר שבך, אוהב מה שגלוי, אני עבד לחוכמה שלך, אין בך כלום שפוי. איזה מזל שיש אותך. וריחמת עליי כמו הם, וניצחת איתי הכל. כל לילה אני בא, את עצמי צניעותך, את נותנת לי ללמוד, וריחמת עליי כמו הם, וניצחת איתי הכל.
I want to thank everybody for being here today. I wish you all a very wonderful Mother's Day and good plans and everything like that. See you on Tuesday night for the continuation of Navi class. Thursday night, we're in an exciting new subject, but it's going to be Lag BaOmer night. So we're going to take off Thursday night so that people can take advantage of that one time during the Omer period where you can go out and do certain things and hear certain music. So we won't meet on Thursday night. Have a wonderful Mother's Day. And I was pretty much able to keep my promise and get us done on time. Bye-bye.